What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TOJ Talks. I'm your host, Will Parkinson, at WillPod11 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. TOJ Pod, all 32. Everyone knows the intro by now. Probably hear it in your nightmares at some point. Should be hitting Saturday morning. Joe Caparoso, the boss, on with me. Joe, A, how you doing? And B, got some exciting news to share before we talk some Jets player power rankings.
I'm doing well because there's never a dull day here. Our live show tickets are now for sale at badlandstoj.com. Part 2, riding again in New York City, Stout, Grand Central, little day drinking, 4 to 7 o'clock, live show, giveaways, raffles, potentially some very special guests and partners are going to be in the building. We're very excited. I think this is going to be a nice step up, even from what was a great event at Printers. We're going to have a 3-hour open bar at what I would say are friendly Midtown Manhattan prices. Also a cash bar option. I will be there. Will will be there. Paul will be there. Connor will be there. Meigs will be there. Dan will be there. The whole gang will be there. And we hope to see everyone and some who was at the first event. So go get them now. August 23rd, 4 to 7, Stout, Grand Central. Go buy the tickets at badlandstoj.com.
Yeah, that was
There's my PSA voice.
Yeah, there's the PSA voice. We'll kind of hit some just quick things on the live show again at the end. I put this question out on Twitter, and we're going to spend the next 15 minutes or so just talking. We've talked enough OTAs and different things like that. I want to talk top 10 Jets. We did this last year, and there was kind of some conversation around not only who you have at 1 or 2, but who just misses out or who makes the list and things like that. And the biggest thing I noticed when I put this out on Twitter was Sauce, Quinnen, Garrett, mostly are the 3 constants. Everything else is very fluctuated. Like, I saw Jermaine as high as 4. I saw Jermaine totally left off. Michael Carter was 5 on a lot of people's thing. He was also totally left off other ones. Like, Bryce was in the top 5. Bryce wasn't on other people's list. Joe, I'll kind of tee you up if you want to go 10 through 6, and then I'll go. I guess what I would say is, I think the top of the roster does have quite a bit of talent, and I think that's the reason to be one of the reasons to be optimistic. Most of these guys are quite young. Some guys coming off down years, some guys you're projecting a little bit going into 25, but I don't think this is a top 10 you look at and go, damn, like this top 10 kind of sucks.
No.
In years past, where it's like, hey, the bottom of the roster is not bad, but the top stinks. This is kind of feels like a little bit of the opposite. So I guess I'll kind of tee you up here in terms of like if you were ranking your top 10, again, this is going into 25. So hey, like Olu could be in there, even if he only played 5 games last year as opposed to some other guys.
I mean, if we're projecting forward how we think they're going to play next year without overweighting past performance, so in the back half, we could kind of debate the Quinnens, the Garretts, the Sauces, who I think need to be in the top 5. I think your bottom half of this likely includes guys like Jermaine, Will McDonald, Olu. I would absolutely make sure Olu is in this top 10. Michael Carter has to be in this top 10. I would say McDonald, Jermaine. I can't skip ahead and put Membu or Mason Taylor in there yet. Membu would be the only one I would seriously consider at this point. AVT is worth the discussion. I'm probably talking about him still before I'm talking about Simpson and Tippmann. And I think what you'll see in this group, and now as I'm really racking my brain, I left off Sherwood, I left off Quincy. It's not easy in a good way. So based on the injury, I love Jermaine, and I think you can make a case that Jermaine could be 4 or 5. I don't think Jermaine's going to be himself until the back half of the year. I hope I'm wrong, but so him being like 10 or maybe being off the list until I see it, I think is reasonable. Sherwood's coming off a really good year. You would think good year for him and what the Jets are going to ask him to do. I think he's ending up in there. So for me, I feel like this collection ends up being McDonald, Tippmann, Sherwood, AVT, Olu, in whatever order you want to kind of mix it together. I'd be really surprised if Olu is not really comfortably in this top 10 by the end of the year. So that's kind of the names that come to mind for me. I don't think I'll say people who I don't think could be in it. Cisco was not good enough last year to be in it. Brandon Stevens was not good enough last year to be in it. Outside of Membu, you can't discuss any rookies to be in it. I would say Quincy was a disappointment last year. You could make a fair argument. There's no defensive lineman worth discussing besides Quinnen, JJ, and McDonald. think all the offensive linemen you could like credibly bat around, which I love to be able to say. There's no receivers, there's no tight ends. So it is kind of a smaller pool to be picking from. I guess I would say back to you, like, is there a name I didn't mention? And is it insane to be like, Jermaine might not be top 10 because he might not play he has himself until the last 8 games of the year and might just be playing like 15 snaps a game the first 7 games.
Yeah, I think the ones that become difficult is projecting guys that had down years last year, right? Like, which
everybody,
the majority of everybody outside of like Will McDonald. But I think for me, the back half of it looks something like a majority of the offensive line, whether that be Olu, AVT, and some form of Tippmann and Simpson. I think you could argue could be in the top 10. I'd probably have them on the outside, just on the outside looking in. I think the back half for me is like Jermaine, AVT, as 2 at like 9 and 10, just because I think, again, both guys are either coming off injury or coming off a year where it was like AVT looked mostly like himself, but I don't think he was fully back to being himself. And again, you're projecting it forward a little bit and hoping that he stays healthy. I would have Sherwood again as a guy in the back half of that top 10. I think he's a good player. I think he's a guy that's well liked. He's a good player. I think you should see some improvement going into year 2 as a full-time starter. Really, year 3 of playing legitimate minutes or reps, however you want to phrase it. I would have Quincy in my top 5, and I would have that for the reason of this is probably the last year in his prime. Maybe he gets 2 years. Maybe he gets 2 years out of his like prime, like peak Quincy athleticism. He had the back thing last year and the whole 9 yards. So I would have him higher. I would probably still have Bryce at least around that 9 or 10 range. He had the knee last year. The confidence was shot. It just was a horrible. I think it was a horrible year for him. He's got a lot to prove. And again, at the live show, I said he was the most overrated player in the team. It's not because I think he's bad. I just think his vision was off last year. The knee wasn't right. Everything just literally from Jump Street was not good. He had the one catch against Tennessee, and then it was like, well, think about it, the second series of the season had a crucial fumble, and like that game almost was over right after that happened. So, of the guys you may have missed, I think Will's closer to a top 5 guy than he is like the end of back half of the 10, just because if he can be a 12-sack guy, like it's kind of hard to not have him in there. I think my 6 through 10 would look something like, Michael Carter, Jermaine, AVT, probably Olu, and some form of Sherwood, maybe in there, and then top 5 more. So like I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody now, like a Sauce, Q, Garrett, Quincy, and Will McDonald, something of that nature. I know I'm missing somebody in there. Bryce, yeah, Bryce again, like probably more in the top 10 range. I think Garrett has a strong argument for 1.
Well, last year Sauce was my 1, and
I would still have Sauce at 1.
I mean, he's a 2-time first-team All-Pro.
It's hard to argue with it.
Kind of hard to argue that. At his best, yeah. I mean, look, if Aaron Glenn truly unleashes him and he's back to that player, he'll be number 1. And Garrett, I love Garrett, but he hasn't had that year yet, right? That like 14 touchdown season, that 1,300-yard season. He's been really consistent, really good, 1,100 yards every year despite shitty quarterback situations. He's a little better than he gets credit for, but he's certainly not perfect. And he just hasn't been an all-pro player yet, and Sauce has. And Quinnen has been at that level and gotten paid. So I think it's probably a debate between Quinnen and Sauce for like 1, 2. And then I think I'd be comfortable putting Garrett at 3. And then from there, I agree that McDonald's like much closer to like top 5 than top 10. Bryce, there's been so much Bryce discourse this offseason. I mean, you can make a case to put Bryce at 3. You can make a case to put him at 13. Who is he going to be? Is he going to be the guy that we saw in 2022 and had some moments, in 2023? And he still had some moments last year. The catch and run against Pittsburgh, the catch against the Titans, some moments against the Bills, even though he couldn't finish the run in the home game. Like, still really good. And maybe he's just healthier this year because something was clearly off last year.
Yeah.
He has to be in the top 10. It's just where you put him. But I think for me, what I would be firm on is that the 3 best players on the team right now, in some order, are Sauce, Quinnen, and Garrett. Those are your sort of 3 blue chips. Quinnen's paid, and that's why you pay Sauce and Garrett. And then everyone else we're talking about paying, AVT, Simpson, Bryce. It's more of a wait and see. And I think both of us agree Bryce probably doesn't get another contract here due to his position. You play him this year, and if he's good, you franchise him. AVT and Simpson, let me see one more year, and then you get the contract, right? You don't have to like get over your skis. Garrett and Sauce are who you take care of. And I did, to be fair, Connor did make a good point this week where if Aaron Glenn wants Sauce to travel and he travels and he can't, then maybe that's what the Jets are going to wait for and be like, look, we're not paying you almost $40 million a year if you're just a one side, never move kind of guy. And that's a fair thing. Now with Garrett, like it's, I think less complicated. I think he's the most straightforward guy to pay. There's no logical reason not to pay him in like the next 5 weeks. Now this is the Jets, so they might not, but there is a fair counter to be like, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but like Sauce, you're awesome. You might be our best player. We don't need to pay you $37 million a year if you're not going to trail Justin Jefferson, and there's no other receivers to shout out in the AFC East anymore because they're all either partying on boats or cursing out their coaches, but that's what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, no, I think there's the two-sided argument with Sauce and Garrett is Garrett's production should only go up, so you'd like to get it done now, but at the same time, Garrett's numbers don't reflect somebody that's going to be paid like a top 7 receiver. Like it's kind of a lot of, he looks really good comparatively to what the Jets have had, and he's a really good player. It's just like, does he have the next level to reach? Can he really be a 1,500-yard receiver? Like, I think we all think that, but there's no evidence to say he can because we've never seen it. Same thing. Can he be a 10-touchdown guy? Like, again, I think he can because I've seen him be open and get missed, but at the same time, like, hasn't done it. In Sauce's case, he's done it to an extent where, like, the problem is if you wait with Sauce, then what? And he's a great year, and Gonzalez gets paid, and then Sauce gets paid. It's like all of a sudden you're dipping into just, I don't know if I'd almost rather pay Sauce now and maybe you give him a bloat. It's going to be like, oh, wow, it's 5 for 150. I can't believe the Jets gave him $30.1 million when Stingley got 30. This is crazy. Like, Sauce is a $150 million guy, and then you look at the deal, and it's a 3-year deal with the extra year, and it's like, we'll figure it out, and the cap's only going to go up and something of that nature. I'd be interested who gets more money, Garrett or Sauce.
We give the exact same amount.
Markets are different, but I feel like they both probably come in around 30, right? It feels like Sauce. The Texans fucked the Jets. Like, I'll use my F on there. They did. They screwed the edge market. They screwed the corner market. Nico's a great deal. The corner market was at like 24 million, 25 million, and it's now at 30. So thank you, Houston. Appreciate you. I would just say, like, kind of closing out the top 10 kind of conversation, and we just want to hit on the live show before we kind of get out of here. A nice quick one. I think there's an argument. There's like 6 or 7 guys that if they play like top 10 players in the team, they're a 9-8 or a 10-7 team. Yep. I think those guys are in no particular order. Jermaine, we've talked about a million times as we kind of closed in. Can Bryce be back to being a staple of this team? That'd be amazing. Can Michael Carter go back to being healthy and a guy that like catches a few more picks than he caught in the years past, and 1 or 2 don't get called back, and it's like, oh, he's a first-team All-Pro slot corner, and he's making $10 million in 2026, and like that's one of the best bargains in the league. Like, can that get back to being a thing? I think the other couple ones, like, we don't talk about it. Can Justin Fields be a top 10 player on this team? Like, probably not. But if he is, that's a good either sign. Means this team is horrible, or that means this team's done, a lot better than we expect. The last one is, you mentioned Tippmann. He's been such a topic of discourse. You and Connor talked about it. I talked about it yesterday. I think he's a good player that could be better. He's not been perfect through 2 years. Like, I'm not sitting here telling you he's Nick Mangold and Kevin Mawae, but like, he's also been coached by probably the worst O-line coach. He had Roger. There's just so many different issues. Can he be the 8th best player in the team where you're like, hey, in 12 months and we have to pay him $20 million a year, I feel good about it? As opposed to like right now, I'd be like, it's cool he's a homegrown guy. I don't think I would be like throwing a parade for him getting extended. I just think those couple of guys that are homegrown guys that if they do the things that they are capable of doing, like, wow, this roster's pretty good. It needs 1 or 2 pieces or 3 or 4 pieces here. Again, if we start getting in the Josh Reynolds as a top 10 player in this roster, like, that's an issue.
I don't like hearing that sentence on this podcast. I want the
26 and under guys that are homegrown, either locked in for multiple years and controllable years. Like, you want those guys being your top 10 guys. Like, I don't want to look at this roster come May or whatever, March of 2025, when we're all sitting in Indy at a table going, like, the homegrown guys aren't that good. I want to be like, wow, dude, these guys are actually really good. And if they add one or two guys outside the org and some guys to the draft, like, this is a team that can compete for the AFC East.
Yeah, I also think I don't ever like to make decisions based on optics and media and impressions and things like that. But the optics of like Sauce walking next year and signing a huge contract with, name whatever team you want, the Raiders or something, or Garrett walking, you kind of hit a point where it's like, what are we doing here? What are we trying to build? Like, we drafted the corner 4th overall. He was first team all pro 2 years in a row, and he's going to go play his prime somewhere else. Like, what, and who's playing corner next year? Like, why would we do that? Yeah. We're going to count on Brandon Stevens, even if we like Thomas. With Garrett, he's going to go to a more dynamic. He's going to go to the Redskins and have 1,600 yards receiving for Jaden Daniels. That's all. Like, sometimes you just got to take care of business and like pay the guys who can be faces of your franchise. Garrett, I feel like, is that without question. I don't really know what else you're like looking for from a competitive perspective. And I think Sauce has signs of that too. I think people are probably a little too hard on Sauce. So I hope optically, I just think it's good business on the field and off the field to pay those two. Like, have the press conference. They both walk out. We each got $30.1 million a year. We're Jets for life. We're the new faces of the franchise. Hang the banners outside of MetLife. Every kid's got a Sauce and a Garrett jersey because they know they're on the team. And you have this like table set for Glenn to have 4 or 5 years to do the right thing and hopefully win and be here longer.
Yeah, it'd be nice to just have like a nucleus. You want that nucleus here of like, this is our core group, and we interchange. You think back to obviously like that stretch you guys talk about all the time from 97 to 2010. Like, there was 2 separate nucleuses there that have like, it was like the Ellis, Mawai, Curtis Martin, Corbett and Keyshawn, and that kind of core group. And then it shifted over and Glenn, and then shifted over into being, obviously more Mangold, Brick, Revis, Cotry, like, and Ellis still, because he's the GOAT, and those different guys. And it was like this core group. And then, hey, a couple years you have Cromartie here, a couple years Sean Green, Thomas Jones are really good, but like, the core group is the core group. The core group just frankly hasn't been good enough, over time. Last couple of things here, Joe. Bryce Huff obviously gets moved. I'm just going to say it. This is a hot take, maybe. I saw everyone basically on their knees for Howie Roseman today. I'm a little confused why we're like giving Howie such a pass here. Like, they signed a guy, hired a defensive coordinator who had no usage for a guy they spent $17 million and $40+ million guaranteed on, and moved them for a mid-round pick. Like, sure, it's nice to recoup some value there for a guy that didn't play well last year, but I'm not like giving Howie like this wow, you're such a genius. Like, yeah, the Reddick deal is amazing, but that doesn't mean spending money and then trading Bryce Huff within 12 months is like genius. I don't think that was the plan.
Super Bowls have a way of doing that. It's just kind of washes everything away, and you're allowed some mulligans. If you're Joe Douglas, you're not allowed mulligans. You just go back to the kids' table.
But Douglas must hate Bryce Huff, huh?
Yeah, you just can't be around him. I can't have Bryce Huff in the same building as me.
Bryce Huff should maybe he'll be on this podcast.
Get him on the pod. Yeah, get him there August 23rd.
There's some rumors of a tell-all of what happened last year in Philly. Quick reminder, obviously. Last comment, Joe. I ranted about this quickly. Why do you think people get so butthurt about these guys golfing? Like, I don't. What am I missing? Devontae and Rogers golf every single day, and they post it all everywhere, and it's like no one cares.
I mean, look, I think people associate golf with like a leisurely activity. Most people who golf do it when they go out and booze with their buddies and are like getting away from the family for 6 hours. So you see like Sauce doing it and talking about it a lot and using his social for what he wants. People are like, can he be doing this? And like, I would say, like, as a young guy who like lives in and around New York, there's certainly worse things he could be doing than just like chilling on a golf course when he's not working out. Now, if he was like skipping OTAs and not going to practice and like posting other crap that was problematic, like, sure, but guys are allowed to play golf. It's a reasonable way to blow off steam. It's not the worst way to spend your leisure time. He doesn't miss practices. It has nothing to do, I think, with why he struggled last year. So I think you got to let these guys, live. They're all young. I think we always forget that. I forget how old I am. Like, Sauce is like 15 years younger than me. And I was like, which is insane. But like when I was like 23, like I'm terrible at golf, but like we all have like our like leisure activities. So, I mean, I think just let the dudes be. I want to criticize them on the football field, sure, but they're not harming anybody out there playing golf.
if Sauce hadn't put on weight and taken nutrition stuff seriously, I'd feel differently. But like Glenn and Wilkes talked about it, like he's over 200 pounds. Like Sauce was probably 185 last year max. Final thing again here, live show tickets are now on sale.
Right now, go buy them. Literally right now.
I will
Go
say
now.
this. We are going to get 450, 500 people in the building.
You're more optimistic than me, but I hope so.
I want people to buy these tickets. I think they're going to have a really great experience. The venue's awesome.
The venue is awesome.
I can tell you, buying 4 drinks in New York City, you'll have well past your open bar ticket, and that's not even including all the entertainment. There's going to be raffles, sponsors, potentially some big guests. So like,
especially some big partners in the building.
Some very big names kind of going around. So like, make sure you're there again. 4 to 7, we'll be around. It's an earlier day, yeah. So wife, kids, siblings, cousins, whatever. A bunch of Jets fans in the building. Appreciate it for listening. Again, link will be below. And
BadlandsDOJ.com. Get the tickets.